ARK Survival Evolved story keeps on going. We're going into Aberration today. This video's been kinda long coming because I've worked on it 3 separate times and have had to either scrap or have scrapped all of the data for it. So, here we go. Our story in Aberration starts with a person named Diana, who awakes at some point on the new ARK. She becomes a leader of a small band of people because she is United Republic of Earth's armed forces. She is a pilot, not a leader though, so she's kind of uncomfortable with this position. Her band is attacked by dinosaurs, and while it's demoralizing for the band, the weather is perfect and the sky is beautiful. Foreshadowing. She assigns call signs to each person to improve morale. Diana's band is assimilated into a larger group that they find whose leader is also URE. In this group, there are people who belong to what seems to be a sort of rival faction that she calls the Federation. But there's a truce on because, in this bit of the world, there's no war. In order to try and break the tension between the groups, Diana picks a Fed member to make friends with, and it turns out to be the infamous hacker Santiago, whose skills are immeasurable. The leadership makes the decision that Diana will take their makeshift suit of tech armor and go out to try to find help. When she does, she finds the invisible barrier surrounding the edge of the ARK. She takes Santiago to go check it out, and he says that if given a little bit of time, he can probably take that barrier down. They find that the source of the barrier is these obelisks on the horizons, no surprise there. Each of those 3 obelisks are sending a signal up to another receiver way up in the sky. Santiago thinks he can get the transporter tech from the obelisks to take them to the gigantic receiver, and they begin to build a bomb to take with them. They manage to get to the teleportation platform up in the sky with their bomb and a host of armed people with them, but some kind of shape-shifting monster appears to try to stop them. Half of their squad is taken out either by the monster or the explosion, but Diana rescues Santiago on the way back down. The platform is destroyed, and with it, so is the entire sky, or the simulation of the sky. The group find that they're on some kind of space station orbiting above the Earth, and now that there's no atmosphere and no sky anymore, and the sun is deadly, everyone grabs what they can and heads underground. The entire surface of the world is on fire, and the caverns that they find underground are equally impressive because of how enormous they are. They use Element, which is the special metal from which their tech armor is made, to whip up a base of operations underground. Their jetpacks have sort of stopped working for some reason, probably because of the solar radiation that's coming in from the broken sky, so they use gliders now. Santiago finds another, much further away signal, and thinks that, given time, they could use the tech from the obelisks to get there. The Gateway project begins. Flip over to Mei Yin. I'm so glad that she's back in this game. After her fight with Nerva, Mei Yin tries to pull her sword out of the console way up in the space station up there, but is transported to a new place. Out of respect, she decides that she had ought to bury Nerva's body, which was also transported with her. She bandages the wound on her face that Nerva left with his sword. Mei Yin discovers that
the sun is a deadly laser, okay,
and manages to escape from its rays into a cave when she sees that Nerva's body is charring to a crisp as soon as the sunlight touches it. She muses that since both monsters and armies have failed to kill her, now the very sun is trying. Let it try. This seems to be some years after the Gateway project begins, because after some years or so, Diana goes to check on one of the obelisks and finds the charred remains of someone in Roman-styled armor. Running out of supplies, Mei Yin decides not to risk the overworld and instead ventures deeper into the caverns, where she finds a lush and great forest full of beasts. At the very least, she is familiar with the feeling of being surrounded by things that could definitely kill you at any time. After being attacked by a group of these sort of spiny, weird beasts, Mei Yin kills a ton of them before finding that the light from a strange glowing pillar repels them. She decides to use this information to her advantage. She takes the bandages from her face and notes her new battle scar. She also meets a little bumbling, deer-like creature that glows like a fallen star, which she tames and calls Xiao. Xiao's luminescent fur protects Mei Yin from the creatures that fear the light. Mei Yin decides that she needs some sort of steed, and discovers a pack of strange hairless wolves that are disgustingly ugly, but probably rideable. She tames one and names it Xi, because it is so black it seems to eat the light around it. She decides it's time to rebuild her beast army. While stalking a great shelled beast, she watches it get killed by a flying dragon and immediately disregards any shelled beast business to set her sights on the dragon to become her pet. She is killed in the fight to tame the dragon, but the hunt is eventually successful, and Mei Yin names her new beast Ao Yue. She is again the Beast Queen. She finds with the help of her new flying companion that the caves go way deeper into a land of luminescence like Xiao's fur. She resolves to continue downward until she finds something. Anything. At this point, she's just surviving. As she goes deeper, she is attacked by a set of tentacle-headed beasts who want to eat Xiao, craving the light instead of fearing it. She saves Xiao from the beasts by using her blade and her dragon, and resolves to keep her only friend close to her. Well, I mean, not her only friend. She thinks about Helena briefly, but then she remembers how she beat Helena over the head to knock her out to go after Nerva, and resolves that they're probably not friends anymore because of it. Sometime later, Mei Yin finds a set of footprints, bigger than a human's, but shaped like a boot and with great distance between them. She tries to track the people who made them, and does find that group, but despite her best efforts, she is discovered by the people who wear armor and have weapons that glisten like moonlight. This must be the element that they were talking about. One of them, a woman with the hair the color of sunset, called the rest to lower their weapons, and Mei Yin accompanies them to their camp. Mei Yin did not sleep because of her careful paranoia. It's at this point that we know that that red-haired woman is Diana. Diana meets Mei Yin and notes that she trusts them way less than they trust her. She understands the paranoia of someone who must live alone like this, but wishes to meet the person hiding behind this measured carefulness. Mei Yin notes how strange the village is. They have tools that contain light, and sleep in metal boxes of some sort. She's content sleeping outside with her beasts. In her mind, those machines which somehow harness light are magic and not machine. She wishes to understand it, but at present she can't. She just can't wrap her head around how those things work. She feels like a child because she can't really use the high-tech equipment in the village, and resolves to leave because she feels so out of place. She asks the orange-haired woman for supplies so that she can leave, but Diana replies that she has to at least try out their set of armor before she's allowed to leave. Mei Yin assents to this, and immediately finds what she was missing in the sharp, swift movements and ease of control of this suit of tech armor. In almost no time, she is an expert in the use of the armor. She can outpace Diana in all aspects of physical training almost instantly. She calls this woman Juzi, named after an orange, but her real name is Diana. Diana marvels at how quickly Mei Yin solves problems, how hard she works, and how insane of a fighter she is. The village asks her to help them get a clutch of dragon eggs, and when she leads her party to get them with great superb ease and skill, nobody treats her like a child anymore. She becomes a sort of stable master, training both the beasts that they now have and those who are tasked with their care. She also starts teaching them how to fight in close quarters. Yeah, they might have ranged weapons, but when you don't have a ranged weapon, you gotta know how to punch and kick and use a sword. Finally, Mei Yin starts to feel accepted into this village, and feels like it might finally become home for her. Diana gets sent on what she describes as an impossible mission. Been a while since she's been on one of those. To find crystallized shards of element that would be useful for the focusing lens of the Gateway project. Yeah, that's still going. The team is to go down into the depths where one kinda can't survive without a hazard suit, and into the place where half a scouting party had already been torn to pieces by terrible, terrifying beasts. After having gone down and finding herself in pretty dire straits, Diana leaves a mission log detailing where the shards are, as well as an account of how much their party had been destroyed by monsters. This is a failsafe in case of a catastrophic mission failure, and someone has to come down later and find them. Mei Yin is unaware of the fact that they had left for a bit, and hearing that there was a party who had gone down into the caverns to find something that could help the village, but haven't returned or responded on their messenger boxes, Mei Yin rushes with Ao Yue down into the depths of that cavern. The village thinks that they're completely lost, but Juzi is with them. Mei Yin refuses to believe that they're lost. She initially finds the bodies of the rest of the party in a land that she describes as being straight up death, where the living should not tread. After some searching, she spots Juzi and another fleeing from a monster, and with Aoyue's help, she takes the monster down with her gun. Juzi's companion dies when a monster bursts out of his chest, leaving just Juzi and Mei Yin. Despite Mei Yin's protests, they continue into the ruins where the plans for something are, and Mei Yin is startled to see that the ruins are remarkably similar to the buildings in which they currently live. They're set upon by demons, but found the thing they sought, even though it cost them Aoyue in the process. Without their flying mount, it takes both of them a lot longer and through much more peril to climb back out of the chasms, but they make it and receive a hero's welcome when they return to the village. The rest of the village's plans for their future now include Mei Yin almost organically, and she no longer reaches for her own memories of her own home way back in the past. Out of thanks for Mei Yin saving her life, Diana makes a necklace for Mei Yin, with whom she's fallen in love. She gives her the necklace, and in exchange, she learns that Juzi means tangerine. Now let's switch over to a different set of perspectives. We're back with Helena and Rockwell. Long time no see. Helena and Rockwell arrive underground. Rockwell arrives with Helena on that station to seek out the huge amount of edmundium, which is the metal that they called element, that he saw from the space station, but he's disappointed when he finds that they're not exactly at that pool. Rockwell determines that the edmundium pool he saw must be representative of many others, and that the reason for the bioluminescence of the underground species that they see must be because of prolonged exposure to that metal. He tolerates Helena's presence because she can handle a rifle to help defend against monster attacks, like the flying bat monsters that they are attacked by. Helena realizes that every monster or creature that they have seen on any of the arcs so far has had a basis in a known species or a human legend, and wonders about the curators of the station and whether or not they might be human. Attacked by bat creatures again, Helena is saved by Mei Yin in a powered mech suit. Rockwell is disgusted by the idea that Mei Yin could have the mental capacity to use the consoles in the space station, and is indignant about her wearing a suit of armor made from his precious edmundium. He supposes that she would kill him on the spot if he showed any hostility, so he decides to bide his time and try to learn more by pretending to be the bumbling old scientist man that he tries to be a lot. Mei Yin and Helena catch up. Helena learns about Mei Yin's coming to this station, and the fact that her new allies are from Earth's future. It makes sense. To Helena, all of the people that she's met have been from her own past, which means that she would have been from their future, so it stands to reason that she would meet someone from her own future at some point. Helena and Rockwell are taken to the high-tech village by Mei Yin and Diana, who spends time talking with Rockwell about science. Rockwell surmises that all the future tech they have is powered by edmundium, and that they don't really understand what they have. He also understands that these people are from the future. Rockwell learns that the others here call the metal that he knows as edmundium element, and that it is indeed the cause of the bioluminescence, which they have called charge. Helena notes that there are a large number of people from the same time period on this station, which is a little weird to her. That hasn't happened to her before. Diana answers as many of Rockwell's questions as is possible, but isn't really a scientist. So Rockwell gets impatient and urges them to put him on a research team so that he can be more readily in proximity to the metal, of which they have vast stores in comparison to his paltry samples. They're skeptical of his sort of archaic science being so far in the past from them, but he is eventually put on a research team, and while the other scientists talk down to him, he knows that his knowledge will surpass theirs in no time at all. Rockwell laments his slow progress, and blames it on the familiarity with the tools and resources. He is aware of the Gateway project, but doesn't much care for it, and offhandedly says that if he were in their shoes, he'd have finished it months ago. He begins to isolate himself in the laboratory to try to make more progress. He eats there, he sleeps there, he's never not in the laboratory. Helena finds out about the plan to build a new gateway to reach the planet below, and recalls the warning that Raya gave on the last station. She tries to warn the village that the obelisks will never allow them to escape. In the meantime, Rockwell figures out how to convert charge into actual real electricity, and creates both a battery and a lantern out of edmundium for it. He persuades Diana to show him the gate project and is pretty unimpressed by it. He wonders why anyone would want to escape from a place so full of potential. The village's leadership listens to Helena's story about Raya and the last Ark, and believe her, but they mention that they've already kind of explored one of the obelisks and damaged this station's control center, which is why the sky is broken. They intend to make an expedition to the surface, which is highly dangerous because of that broken sky. Rockwell upgrades his lantern and battery to be a portable version of themselves, and is granted permission to accompany an expedition into the lower caverns to see the liquid admonium. He's still very wary of Mei Yin, who seems to be suspicious of him, but then again, who wouldn't be? Mei Yin knows. In the meantime, Helena is trained in the use of the mechanized tech armor by Mei Yin and Diana. So Helena, Mei Yin, and computer expert Santiago set out for the obelisk in their armors, while Rockwell stays behind to quote-unquote help with science, and blather on about this special metal that he knows so much about apparently. Rockwell uses that opportunity to set out with the other scientists to the lower caverns wearing some kind of containment suit that he's not quite comfortable in, but that he knows will probably keep him from dying. Helena marvels at the stark difference in the station's structure in comparison to the island in the desert. She and Mei Yin are good friends again, but she notes that Mei Yin gets distant and fiddles with a necklace sometimes. Maybe Mei Yin's starting to come around to that idea. Rockwell sees the pools of raw admonium and is ecstatic about that sight. The admonium sings to him, and he manages to contain some of it in a containment pod that he created on the spot out of the admonium that he'd brought with him. Seeing that direct exposure to the sun in this station burns even their high-tech tech armor to a crisp, Helena wishes she could be fleeing from a pack of dinosaurs instead. They approach the obelisk, only moving above ground during the night. Meanwhile, retrieving the liquid metal and bringing it back to the village, the other scientists warn Rockwell that exposure to it will make him sick, but he knows the true potential in its undiluted pure form and shuns their warnings. Rockwell thinks that Diana is trying to steal his work on the admonium, so he distracts the scientists with a new strain of bioluminescent plant life that he engineered called Plant Species Z, which can act as a sentry. The other scientists focus their attention here, which is where Rockwell wants them to think he's working at most. Back at the obelisk, Santiago gets readings from it, which is behaving oddly and threatening to go off and tear the station apart, just like back in the last Ark. The obelisks are found to be highly unstable, but the Gateway project being shut down might not stabilize them in the first place. The decision is made to try to shut down the obelisks from the heart of the station itself by teleporting there using the obelisk's teleports. Rockwell converts the solid admonium of the village into its pure liquid form in secret and begins to experiment with it on living creatures. He finds it can change, elevate creatures, and tests it on one of the small luminescent pets that the village keeps. It grows into a monster, and Diana kills it, much to Rockwell's chagrin. This might actually have been Xiao, Mei Yin's pet. Helena, Mei Yin, and Santiago teleport to the strange control room from the obelisk, which Helena recognizes as being very similar to another control room that she's seen. She encounters a chamber in the control center where all the creatures on the station are grown in vats, proving that the holograms she'd seen on the island's control center were correct in showing that each station makes all of its creatures with an unexpected lifespan and set of behaviors. Back at the village, the council lectures Rockwell on the ethics of meddling with living creatures, and the safety he endangers with his experiments, and refuses to let him take any more living test subjects. Rockwell starts infusing the liquid admonium with his own blood, not being able to use any other test subjects for it, and he finds that it can be re-injected into his circulatory system. He starts to begin his own plans for his own ascension via the metal. Helena comes to another chamber that's filled with tubes that are creating humans. She has a brief existential crisis, wondering if she really was artificially created and implanted with memories, but decides that a better thought is that the stations can reach into history somewhere and just copy someone from a specific point. This gives her the ability to deal with the fact that she was grown in a vat, absolutely and most obviously. Back at the village, Rockwell cuts off circulation to his arm and injects the serum into it, and watches his arm metamorphose. He feels such a raw power that it takes every bit of willpower he has, not to simply inject a bunch of it into his system and ascend right then and there. He forces himself to study the results before going all in. Helena tries to explain to Mei Yin that the case that they could be plucked out of history and cloned from there could be the real case, but Mei Yin seems to have a deeper crisis of identity. They eventually find the obelisk's control room, and Santiago takes some time to hack into the consoles. This unfortunately releases a ton of self-defense systems, and creatures flood in towards them. Mei Yin leads the charge through the horde of creatures, while Helena and Santiago blast the controls and run away, barely getting through the portal platform safely. The village is saved and the nature of the stations is confirmed, but Helena starts to lose her sense of identity and stops making her dossiers about the creatures that she sees, because what's the point? She thought that it was an expression of self before, but now that she doesn't know whether she's a real person or not, does it even matter? She eventually comes to the conclusion that even if her previous life and memories weren't real, everything that she's done since coming to the island is her own choice, and that's what her real identity is. When they tell the village what they've done, she, Mei Yin, and Santiago are hailed as heroes, and Mei Yin starts to recover herself a little bit. As the village is celebrating, Rockwell gathers as much admonium from the village as he can in secret. He gathers enough for his plans and curses the name of Helena Walker. He's the real scientist here, not that paltry-minded whelp. He should be getting all of the accolades. Rockwell injects all of the admonium into his body and ascends, assumedly becoming some terrifyingly great creature. On the way back to the village, a distress call comes from Diana. It's jumbled, but it mentions Rockwell and sounds alarming. Helena worries about Rockwell's safety. Helena, Mei Yin, and Santiago hurry back to the village from the obelisk, but Diana dies in Mei Yin's arms as she reveals that the horrible violet monster that they saw retreating into the caverns below was Rockwell transformed. He's the one who destroyed everything. Several weeks of defending themselves from Rockwell's monsters later, Mei Yin grabs all the weapons and beasts available and goes off to hunt Rockwell down. Helena follows after her. Helena catches up with Mei Yin and Rockwell in a deep cavern full of magma, where Helena sees the monster that Rockwell has indeed become. Together, she and Mei Yin defeat him and throw his hulking, monstrous body into a deep chasm. Mei Yin almost falls in, but Helena catches her at the last second. Somehow, Rockwell escapes the ARK and speaks to it as though it were a being itself. The ARK tells him of a higher plane of existence, and he will reach it together. At least that's the last thing that we have from Rockwell, but it's a possibility that Rockwell is simply very hard inside the ARK, and is down at the core of that place, where he speaks to the ARK because it is made of admonium, and he can now communicate with that metal. Meanwhile, Helena writes a letter to the Rockwell that she knew, an epitaph to put on his empty grave, commiserating his weird and sudden obsession and ultimate death because of it, and avows herself a friend of that man, the scientist that she knew before. The friend, always. Returning back from the terrible fight, Mei Yin fiddles with her necklace and is silent and morose. Helena has to coax her into even eating food. Somehow the Gateway project survived, and what survivors are left from the village are being organized into teams by Santiago to finish it within 2 weeks. Helena doesn't think she'll be invited to travel through the Gateway because it's her fault that Rockwell was there in the first place to cause all of this destruction. The Gateway project is prepared to be finished. Helena packs her things to leave, and while Santiago protests it, Mei Yin outright forbids it, breaking down emotionally and begging her to stay. She agrees after Mei Yin says she can't afford to lose anything more. There's no more records from this bit, but it is assumed that they go through the Gateway project, possibly down to Earth. Some indeterminate amount of time after the departure of Helena and Mei Yin, 5 modern-day young adults arrive on the ARK in the caverns. Rusty, the only one who is not a graduate student, concerns himself with hunting food and trying to win the respect of the other 4 in the group by bagging the biggest monsters. Along the way, the others start to talk about how he's partially unstable, and he hears them talking. The deeper they go into the caves, the more things begin to get weird, and Rusty decides that bagging one of the monstrous glowing creatures from further in will get him the respect of the others. The journal here switches to Amelia's perspective, where she laments that everyone trusted Rusty from day one. Rusty is missing now, and while the general consensus is to look for him, one of their number, Boris, says that it's not worth looking for him. The group is continually attacked by monsters, and Amelia is not useful in repelling them. She's just an engineering student. She's not strong, she's not fast. She's just kind of holding them back. Along the way, Imamu, another one of them, makes a bat creature into one of his pets. They find Rusty's body, bloody and an indescribable mess otherwise. Amelia blames herself for everything, and in a fit of remorse, she sacrifices herself so that the others can escape from a horde of what they called demons. Now, from Boris's perspective, he muses on the pawn sacrificing itself for the king. Of course, that's what she must do. After all, he's the important one. He, Imamu, and Trent are what remain, and Boris thinks that Trent is a wasted effort. He hears a call from deep within the caverns, and pushes the group deeper to find the origin of that call. They go deeper and find an artifact, one of the keys to unlocking the obelisks, but also find its protector. Boris takes the artifact as a sign that he's worthy of the power it will unlock, and writes in his journal that he was the one who ravaged Rusty's body after he fell a great distance while looking for camp. He killed the wounded Rusty and ate his flesh because they were so malnourished at the time. Unfortunately, he too is injured and resolves himself to death, willing Trent and Imamu to continue with another artifact. The perspective now comes to Trent and tells of how Boris attacked Imamu out of nowhere, then ran away and died. How's it feel to be the one bleeding out now, huh? Bet you're not so useless anymore. Trent trusts Imamu to have everything figured out and notes that Imamu is a straight-up genius. They go to check some buildings that they'd spotted earlier and find a small town's worth of buildings, complete with metal sleeping pods. They find some weaponry as well, and they set up in what remains of the village to recover and rest. Imamu tames some more beasts, and together they venture deeper into the caverns. Trent is stung by a monster's tail, and when he tries to sleep to recover from his wound, he is killed by the thing's offspring that bursts from his chest. Oh boy, wonder where we've seen that before. Imamu is now left alone, and he bemoans the loss of everyone but himself. He muses that his royal hands cannot return to a royal cushioned life after what he's seen and experienced here. He eventually finds the third artifact and travels toward the terminal. As he does, he feels a pull, possibly the same pull that Boris felt. Maybe this pull is the pull of the master of this world. Its call is terrible, and it exhausts with its mind. Still, Imamu and his pets drive further. The last entry in this journal is Imamu imploring anyone who reads it not to seek the master, not to chase after the artifacts. All who come here are doomed. There is no escape from the master. There is no escape from the beast called Rockwell. At an indeterminate time, one more person is transported to the ARK, and she assumes that what she is experiencing is a lucid dream. She talks about the dream that she always has, and says that it's so easy to wake up from them. She walks off of a cliff, expecting to wake up just as she hits the bottom. It doesn't work. Hoo boy, that is the story of ARK Survival Evolved Aberration. I am to understand that there might be one more map coming in the near future, and there's also some things that you can see in each of the maps. There's one journal entry by someone who is just labeled as several question marks. We can do some videos about that, maybe talking about some theory crafting and that sort of thing in the near future, but for now you know the thing that happened in Aberration. Thank you guys so much for coming and watching. Thank you for having patience with me as I get this video out. I know it has been months and months since I said I would do it. It's finally done. So now you guys can stop asking for it because it is here, and I can stop feeling bad for not having done it earlier. You guys know what to do with those buttons. That's the like and subscribe button, as well as the social media that's down in the description box. And if you appreciate the things that I do with videos like this one and want me to do other videos similar to it, you can leave a comment here and maybe also go over to my Patreon page that is down in the description box. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.